So with E3 2019 behind us and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel confirmed by Nintendo, it wouldn't take long before my mind would start running wild with ideas of what exactly I feel would make the sequel a much better game than the original. Now, before we get into this list, keep in mind that the game is a little while away, so I will be doing multiple versions of these, especially when we get new and more footage release of the game. I'm sure ideas will just be sprouting like Deku trees, but honestly, I'll make more lists and just be like, oh, look, that thing that Nintendo just introduced in that one trailer brought up 5 different ideas that I think will help this, that, and the third, and another list will pop up. So yes, this is just one of many. So without further ado, here we go. Let's get into it. 10 things that I feel will make the sequel to Breath of the Wild better than the original. So remember the first time you left Windfall Island on the King of Red Lions and you had that vast, beautiful ocean to explore? I mean, 360 degrees, choose any direction, you're gonna find something to explore. Remember the first time you jumped into the water though? And then Link couldn't dive into the water? I remember that. I remember being super disappointed by that. And then Twilight Princess came out, and Nintendo 100% remedied that. Skyward Sword, also fantastic underwater sections. And then we get to Breath of the Wild. And Breath of the Wild decided to go back to giving us a giant, beautiful, vast landscape. 360 degrees, we can choose any direction to go. There's going to be stuff to do. But when you jumped in that water, you was Wind Waker Link again. You was Toon Link again. Funny enough, yes, he is animated just like Toon Link. But yeah, I hope this is not the case with the sequel to Breath of the Wild. I want to dive underwater. I want Nintendo to do exactly what they did to the land, to the underwater sections. Yes, I want the world to interact with each other, different things, electric eels and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to see underwater really done justice in the Breath of the Wild engine. I mean, coming to Lake Hylia and just not being able to dive under, knowing that there is a dungeon under there. At least there used to be. Was super disappointing. So I hope that in Breath of the Wild 2, we get some very, very vast underwater sections with a bunch of creativity and new abilities. I mean, there was nothing better than putting on a pair of iron boots and just sinking to the bottom. Do you know what's almost as good as putting on a pair of iron boots and sinking to the bottom, though? Climbing the highest mountain in Breath of the Wild and then jumping off it with a full stamina meter, or close to full stamina meter if you were like me and decided to go for hearts instead of a full stamina meter, and just getting an overlay of the land and seeing what direction you want to go in and just choosing it and heading in that direction. See, sinking to the bottom with a pair of iron boots is really great. But when you're sinking, or should I say descending all the time, when you jump off of a giant mountain, isn't so much. Because man, I want flight. I want flight so bad. I wasn't in flight in Breath of the Wild. The first time we saw Breath of the Wild, I was like, man, that's a giant piece of landmass. I can't wait to get around by land, sea, and air. Now, yes, you can get around by air. And if you're next to a dragon, it'll even give you some extra air so you can ascend. Oh man, we need some ascension so bad. What way could we ascend in the Breath of the Wild sequel? It can be technology. Sheikah technology is everywhere. You got a motorcycle, man. So the door is open for anything. And there was a flying bird city in the air. So yes, there can be Sheikah technology made specifically just for Link to fly. But then I say you can be far more interesting. The castle's going up in the air, skyward. Maybe Lothwings will return. Now that will be awesome. Look, Lothwings will be awesome. Sheikah Tech would be great. But if it were up to me, I would want it to be Kapora Girabora. Now, I don't know if that's how you say that all-knowing, wise owl's name, but it's the way I always said it. Yes, Kapora Girabora. And ever since he helped me get off of Death Mountain in Ocarina of Time, I thought, man, how cool would it be to be able to call that owl and, you know, get on it and fly around? And Lothwings kind of fit that bill. But I always thought Kapora would be a better choice. You want to know why? Because Zelda is known to have awesome side characters that help you on your adventures. Midna, Navi, Fi. The list goes on and on. We all assume that in this game, it'll be Zelda, which I hope it is, right? I hope it's Zelda and vice versa. Link, you get to play as both. So if indeed that is the case and we're playing as both, whoever you are in playing as fills the role of that companion character. But how cool would it be if it was Kapora? Also, that owl speaks. It can talk to you. It can go place and say, hey, this area, there's something going on in that area. Or maybe you can even have an Assassin's Creed style element where you can send that owl to go, look at the land and stuff like that, and then you can pick to go in that direction. But I personally don't want that because Kapora isn't a little eagle. He's a big ass owl. You would get on your owl and you would go up there, you would look around and be like, ooh, right there, yo Kapora, I'll holler at you in a second. Jump off it skyward style, open your paraglider, and now you Breath of the Wild style descending to wherever the hell you wanted to go. You land, you did what you wanted to do, then you go, Kapora comes back. Yo, it was good. Something crazy going down over there around Death Mountain. He'd be like, oh, well, yeah, but I ain't going that way. So we going this way. But that would be great. And Kapora's big enough that you and Zelda could ride on it. And maybe you could even put some pouches of stuff on it like you could on that giant enemy you see right here. Well, enemy. You hear me? I just assume you're going to be able to kill everything, right? It's Breath of the Wild. So anything can be your enemy if you're a psycho. But, nah, in all seriousness, like, that character, like, imagine that, or that thing, whatever. You can have multiple versions of traveling companions so that you can take more things with you. So, you don't have to always be running around and chopping down trees. You can see a bunch of the logs on its back. So, yeah, you can stock up and head on the adventure. Yeah, man, the owl friend can also fit that bill. I don't know about y'all. I just want to be able to fly around, ascend, choose my direction where to go outside of just climbing on that mountain. I think it would just do wonders for Breath of the Wild. Now, I know most people be like, yeah, that's cool. But at the end of the day, once you get quick travel, you're going to be quick traveling everywhere. Yeah, I mean, look, after 300 hours, you're going to be like, yo, Kapora, I'm good. I'm just going to quick travel. But there's still going to be those times where you just want to take it all in, all that open air, and that's when flight fits the bill, So, yeah, after seeing Flight Simulator, I was just like, even more reasons why I want to fly in Breath of the Wild. How do they tie to each other? Everything ties into Zelda, damn it. Everything. So it's hard to talk about Breath of the Wild 2 without considering everything that was introduced in the original game. So when I sit here and I talk about shrines, that's assuming that shrines are even going to be in the game. I mean, when you see that shot of the overworld and Hyrule Castle going up skyward, yeah, there's no shrines to be found. So who knows if shrines are even going to be in the game. Now, maybe, the fact that all the shrines are done, all 120 of them complete, they went away, back under the ground. Who knows? I mean, they came up, so maybe they went back down into the ground. Maybe that'll be the perfect excuse for Nintendo to do what I hope they're going to do, which is now with the power of the Switch, there is no need, or at least not as much need, to put loading screens in between you and the next puzzle. So I would love to see more overworld shrines. Yes, overworld shrines. That means shrines like this one right here, which I don't remember the name of. But yeah, I said, you know what? You're going to go capture gameplay of that so you can show exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, and this one right here, another one where it was like you had to take an orb all the way to this area. Now, obviously, I'm just riding through on a horse, but when you was walking through with all these enemies, this was awesome. This was an actual problem. Now, obviously, it all ends with a shrine, but still, the puzzle was getting the shrine to appear or getting to the shrine. You know what I mean? And I want to see more things like that, like this one right here. All these different color orbs, and I remember just trying to get all these orbs into this damn circle section. It was a challenge. It was fun. You know what I mean? So I want to see more of that. Just shrines that are themed after the area you in. How cool would it have been if when I'm going into this area right here, I mean, it's a snow themed area. How cool would it have been if right when I went in here, instead of it being a shrine, it was just a deeper entryway into a giant, area that is a puzzle. And it's snow themed and it's slippery and ice, all that stuff that comes with snow. And if you're in the fire section, obviously things are going to be hot. So you don't want to step on that because then you're going to be screaming like Mario when he get his ass cheeks burned. Yeah. I would like to see shrines designed after the areas they're in. Now, speaking of shrines, let's get to the next one. The evolution of dungeons, classic dungeons. Yes, I want to see that. I don't feel that the Divine Beasts were that. You know, some people felt like Hyrule Castle was that. I didn't. When I say evolution of a classic Zelda dungeon, classic being Ocarina of Time, all the way up to Skyward Sword, those 3D dungeons, I mean puzzles, keys, compass, man. I would love to see Nintendo go about it again like that, but with all of the rules that Breath of the Wild introduced. I mean, if you put Breath of the Wild Link into one of those dungeons, he's easily gonna get through it because he's gonna be climbing walls, paragliding to the other side. Like, for real, my predecessor had trouble with this. What, was he dumb? Did he not climb? Like, what was wrong with him? So yeah, I would love to see dungeons that take advantage of that. And again, themed after the area you in. Not saying that everything needs to be themed after the area you in. I love stuff where, like, hey, look, you're in this forest, and then you just got teleported to this whole nother world. It happened in Breath of the Wild. It happened in Link to the Past. I like that. It happened in Ocarina of Time. Pull a sword out the ground, and hey, now you're somewhere else completely. I like that. So I'm not saying that it just has to be one-dimensional, but obviously what I'm asking for is for a lot of the puzzles, a lot of the caves and things that you find are like this footage that you're seeing right here. You know, just real places where these dungeons are taking advantage of Breath of the Wild style. So obviously they got to be way bigger. A dungeon, if you still got shrines, assuming they still have them, and you have dungeons, the dungeons have to be massive. So imagine Zelda and Link having this creature, whatever the hell it is, and there's sections where you got to separate. Like I said in the previous video, where he's like, hey, I love you. She's like, be careful. Gives him a kiss on the cheek. Now you're playing whichever one you want to, pick. Maybe they have separate different abilities that are better utilized for specific sections. So you add a little bit of linearity to the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild style of all of that open airness, but it's still open to you, how you go about it, where you two decide to go next. So yeah, dungeons, I mean, I think they're guaranteed to be making a return. And when I say dungeons, I mean, yes, real dungeons. Again, with a compass and a map and some keys, and a boss and something that you get that's going to help you get into other sections of Hyrule. You know what I mean? Like, I hope that happens. So am I asking for a little bit of narrative in my Breath of the Wild sequel? Absolutely. And the reason for that is because a lot of my other choices on this list of features that I want included in the sequel to Breath of the Wild would benefit from a little bit of the narrative. For example, story triggers tied to achievements. And no, not achievements like Xbox Live or trophies on PlayStation Network. I'm talking about in-game accomplishments. Like one of those dungeons that I was just talking about. You and Zelda just got out of a massive dungeon. That triggers a cinematic to play. Something has happened in this world. We are now playing in the now. This is not a story about what happened 100 years before, about a bunch of champions that sacrificed themselves for me to do exactly what I'm doing currently. This is a game that takes place in the now. We aren't saving Zelda, hopefully. We aren't saving Link, hopefully. But if we are saving somebody at this point, yeah, let it be Link. Why not? Because we just saved Zelda. This is a sequel. It would make no sense to be like, oh, hold on, wait, no, we're going to do this all over again. So how cool would it be if just the things that you do within the game triggered cinematics? I don't know if it'll be like number based, like, hey, you completed 5 shrines, it triggers this cinematic. Or you completed 3 massive dungeons, so now this thing in the overall just changed. Yeah, like what happened? Oh yeah, that thing broke and then some giant thing came out of it, and it's like, oh yeah, now we gotta go over there. I guess that's another dungeon and a whole different boss, and what I gained here is gonna be beneficial over there. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, does that add linearity to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild style? Absolutely. Would that be a negative? I don't think any Zelda fan would find that as a negative. Because, for one, the story would be happening in the current timeline. You know what I mean? And that's something that I think everybody who played Breath of the Wild wanted more of when they ended the game. Zelda basically leaves you on such a cliffhanger, like, hey, yeah, we're going to go and we're going to, do whatever the hell it is that they're going to do. And you're like, oh, yeah, I can't wait. Here we go. And then we were like, man, it ended. So what was the next logical step? To start talking about the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Yes, a direct sequel. All of us wanted it. We wanted that Majora's Mask style turnaround. Why? Because we wanted a story that was based around these 2 incarnations of Link and Zelda that took place in the current time. Because Breath of the Wild was just, it was just broken up like 100 years before. But Zelda from 100 years before, she's still here, but she's in that castle. Obviously, we know that because she was like, hey, Link, wake up. Yeah, we know that she's there. We did all of this stuff. We triggered memories in these specific places, which gave us cinematic, gave us story. And once we were done with this, and all the story, all of that took place in the past. It was about, hey man, good luck. Basically, we tried, we died, and then you went and you saved Zelda. We saved her. We got her now. Please give us story that's based around current Hyrule rebuilding itself, or Ganondorf doing things currently. Like, oh yeah, he just went to the Gerudo Desert and he just completely obliterated a bunch of the Gerudo and stuff like that. So you got to go back over. Remember, we have characters there that we put in position, that are basically the new champions. So Ganondorf ain't gonna have it easy. We did a lot in Breath of the Wild that was current, so I want all of that to play into a modern story. That's why stories based around your in-game achievements, I think, are gonna have to be in the game, right? We just can't do this. Look, not saying that you can't have areas where you go to and you trigger something from the past. I think that would be great, especially if Zelda is right next to you, because Zelda knows all of the history. If you went to Zelda's room, she has so many books and stuff like that. Like, Zelda knows Hyrule. So yes, she can give you... Zelda can literally be like scanning in Metroid, where you go to something, you press the button, and it triggers her to just start talking about it. Oh yeah, this thing and blah blah blah. It's tied to this race of people, or these people, or whatever the case may be. Now, sticking with story and Zelda talking about stuff, let's get to the next one. More voice acting, yes. So now I went up to a spot, I pressed the button, and it just triggered Zelda to just start talking right there in game. Not a cinematic that the game is gonna cut to, just in game talking. I want to bump into Beetle and him actually talk. Why not? The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild was the first Zelda game outside of Link going, "Come on," and Wind Waker that I remember voice acting in, right? And everything else is usually gibberish, right? Kabloom, which I like, and I still would want that because that is part of Zelda's charm. Like, straight up, like if a character is fully voiced, I wouldn't mind walking up to him, pressing A, and he goes, what do you want? You know what I mean? Like, you just start talking, like, it would be hilarious. But look, a lot of people act like, oh, Zelda's voice acting was terrible. Don't do that, because you doing that might lead Nintendo to believe, you know what, they didn't like it, let's not do it at all. A lot of people acted like it was perfect, and that was not the case either. It was fine. It wasn't the worst voice acting I've ever heard, and it wasn't the best voice acting I ever heard. It was fine. I really like Zelda's voice actress. I like Mipha also. Mipha is great. Trust me, every time I heard that, I felt like, oh, yeah, I'm powerful now. Bring it. I got a fairy. You know what I mean? Basically what it felt like. So I definitely want more of... current story, like I said in the last one, and voice acting, man. More voice acting is definitely necessary in a successor to Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild was just Nintendo basically, opening that door. And now I feel like, yeah, now just let the voice actors pour in. Just let them pour in. You're making this game, get on that. Start now, you know what I mean? And make sure the NDAs are right so that people don't spoil you the story, because the stories are fairly important. Now, I don't think anyone would deny that The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild needed more enemy variety in order to fill in the giant, massive world that Nintendo created. Were the enemies in there good? Absolutely, but they definitely need more. This Zelda game being darker from the footage we see here just makes me feel like, you know what we need? We need some Redeads. Hell, technically, ain't that Ganondorf kind of in Redead form right there? I could just see him jumping on Link's back and just start biting him. You know what I'm saying? But Redeads, I could see them making a return. But more than that, what I want is Wall Master. You know what I'm saying? War Master, Hand Master, whatever people want to call him. I love that enemy. You know what I mean? Like, you just walking around the dungeon and you just start seeing your shadow just grow. Like, what the hell is going down? And the hand just grabs you up. The hand that comes from under the ground and pulls you down. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love that, and I can see that being the thing in a darker Legend of Zelda game. And Breath of the Wild 2 fits that bill perfectly. Not only that, when we talk about enemy variety, I'm talking also in how we can interact with those enemies. It was nothing better than just paragliding down for a super long time, only to land on the Lionel and just start stabbing him in the back. Then you get into the fight. You know what I'm saying? And y'all start fighting and everything. And again, you can jump onto that character's back and just start wailing on them. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't really do that with any other enemies. I would like to see more. I don't know if you call that quick time events or just melee moves like that, but I would like to see more of it. You know what I'm saying? Like Link has a sword and Link has a shield. Breath of the Wild utilized the shield very good. You know what I mean? Very good. Reflecting beams was awesome. But at this point, I'm like, Captain America throws a shield. Wonder Woman, another one, she got her shield. She be throwing her shield. Link, at this point, you might as well just throw your shield too. You know, and maybe that'll happen with the next entry on this list. So a lot of people had issues with the weapon system. People, hoarders, I would like to say. No, I'm just playing. But for real though, like people just wanted to hold on to their stuff. It was, oh, I got this great weapon. I don't want to use it. It's like, dude, you could get like 15 more of those right where that came from. All you got to do is, you know, fight, basically. And you're going to be rewarded for fighting. You never aren't rewarded in Breath of the Wild. You know, so I don't know what the attachment is to your weapons, you know. Now, was I scared the first time my mad sword broke? I was like, what? Are you serious? Like, but then I was, oh no, the energy left. All right, it's all good. But I know people have a problem with that and they want that to change. So right here, you see Link hand having some issues. Oh boy, what's happening to Link? Is he dying? Is he being transported to another time? Oh yes, I am going to talk about time. Don't worry about that. But is this the new ability? Is this our new Sheikah Slate? I think most of us would agree that that is what this is, more than something really awful happening to Link. Which, I mean, again, if it's happening to Link, good, better than Zelda. So that this way we can save his ass for a change. But no, we all think that's gonna be an ability. Plus, 2 years ago at GDC, there was concept art of Link, you know, losing his arm and then having different things he could put there. So yeah, the previous idea of Link, like, you know, throwing his shield, isn't that crazy if Link doesn't even have shields. And instead he has a Master Sword, and on the other hand, he creates bombs. He creates a shield. You know what I'm saying? That'll be awesome. So he can throw his shield and stuff like that. Maybe he can even shoot out of that arm. That'll be a cool way so that if there is still weapons in there, which, I mean, hopefully there is, right? And you're picking them up and they still break, you can, like, those people who have issues with the weapons breaking, they could fall back on Link's magic abilities. You know what I mean? And these are all, you know, attack based and stuff like that, but not all attack based, because there's an item that I want to return. And this hand, I don't know what this glowing hand is, but this hand being what it is, because this is what this option, this category is about. It's about this glowing hand. You can bring back the best item in 3D's other games, the item that wasn't in Breath of the Wild. Now, if you're a real one, you already know what I'm talking about. You already know where I'm going with this. Oh, Red is about to talk about what? Exactly. The hook shot. Double hook shot was awesome. But even one would be just enough. Like paraglide, and then just stop in the middle of the air, slow motion, boom. You know, Breath of the Wild style. And then just use your magic arm to hook shot on something, grab you some pull. You know, even fighting enemies, being able to pull them towards you or, you know, jack them. You know, basically like you would in Wind Waker, you would just steal all of their items. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I would love to see that make a return. But yeah, Link having this powerful hand in order to remedy, you know, the weapon system for those who had an issue with it, I think would be genius more than just completely removing it. Honestly, the other choice is just to make the Master Sword get fully powered. But then when you do that, I'm like, oh, can we talk to Fee though? You know, I mean, listen, we could have Zelda or Link as our little right-hand man in the game, our companion character, and you could have Corporal Gearbora, and you could have Fee. Yes, 3 people smothering the character you choose to play as, whether it be Link or it be Zelda. That'll be great. I wouldn't even mind though. I just really like these characters, so why not? Is there even a way to make a Legend of Zelda list without mentioning time travel? I mean, Breath of the Wild dealt with time. Link to the Past dealt with time. Ocarina of Time deals with time. The whole damn series is based around time. You know, different incarnations, different time periods we playing at. One game would be the first game in the series, but it was literally one of the last other games to come out, and that's Skyward Sword. You know, another game might just be a sequel to Link to the Past. That's Link Between Worlds. Like, time in the Zelda series is nothing new, and it's something that the series is always going to utilize. Now, I don't just want to talk about time in this category. No. I want to talk about my favorite incarnation of Link. Young Link, Toon Link. You know? One of my favorites now, because I would say between Skyward Sword and Link and Breath of the Wild, older Links, you know, it kind of evened out. But Young Link still holds a special place in my heart because of Toon Link, because of Link to the Past Link, because a lot of the Links that we did play as Ocarina of Time, Young Link, a lot of the Links we played as were young. So how cool would it be to see these incarnations of Link and Zelda jumping through time, just like in Ocarina of Time? So you get a younger Zelda, a younger Link. You could have the dynamic where Zelda's super powerful, you know, now in the modern time, but when you jump back through time with her, she's not as powerful, something like that. Or maybe she doesn't jump back in time because she doesn't have any of her abilities back in time. So maybe that hand, there can be areas where it triggers, like time shift stones in Skyward Sword, triggers Link to go back in time. And Link can always go back in time because Link always had that wisdom, and Link always had that strength, that ability, that courage. You know what I'm saying? I know wisdom, it's Zelda's, but you know what I mean. He always was that character who was going to be at the forefront. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh yeah, something's happening, he's going to jump. It had nothing to do with him unlocking those abilities. It's just in his DNA. It's in his character. That's why no matter when the evil arises, be it older Link, young Link, Link is going to get busy. You know what I'm saying? Same with Zelda. The only thing is, this specific Zelda, we know, didn't have any of her abilities back then. So it probably wouldn't make sense unless they like, oh yeah, she goes back and she's literally the Zelda you have in the future, just in her younger body, and now she's using her abilities and all of that stuff. But then I feel like, wouldn't that change too much of the, you know, that would be too much of a change in the past, and it'll change the future. And maybe then that way, you know, Calamity would win even beyond the 100 years and her being captive. Maybe he'll just completely win. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But Tom having a part in this game would be great because, again, I just mentioned time shift though. We could stick to that. Link hand being tied to, you know, going in and out of time would be pretty awesome. Now imagine a scenario where through all of Zelda's research, they found the location of an old temple, aka a dungeon. They get to this location, but there's a giant boulder in the way. Zelda sends Link back in time, and Link basically stops the event that caused that boulder to get in the way. The boulder disappears, you know, in current time, right in front of Zelda's eyes. Link jumps, well, yeah, you know, goes back forward in time, back, forward. You know what I mean. He's back in the current timeline. And then him and Zelda go into that dungeon, aka temple, and then there's time shift stones in there. And imagine Zelda and Link interacting with each other, like, you know, a time shift stone area. Link turns into young Link, and you got older Zelda and him working together. I mean, look, there's a lot that they can do. And between time and the fact that this is a sequel to Breath of the Wild, and Nintendo doesn't have to really waste too much time designing the game, you know, from the bottom up and all of the mechanics and everything like that, they can really go in and just go in on the creativity side, which Breath of the Wild had a bunch of that, obviously, within the shrines and the divine beasts and stuff. But I feel like they can go even more with it. And then you take into consideration the power of the Switch, and it's like, oh, there's so much they could do. There's so much they could do. So here we are on my final idea of what'll make the sequel to Breath of the Wild better than its predecessor. My save file, Nintendo. Have it carry over. Mine's and everyone else listening to this. Have our save file carry over. Because listen, all of us who went through all 120 shrines, I ain't gonna talk about the people who went for every Korok seeds, because y'all got a problem. No, I'm just playing. Y'all crazy though for doing that. How did you like your turd? No, but in all seriousness, for all of the people who completed all of the shrines, we want our green tunic when we start this game. I better go into my inventory and see that green tunic there. The tunic of the wild, yes, it better be there. I mean, this is a sequel, a direct sequel. There's no reason why it shouldn't be there. The shrines are done. The shrines are complete. Hell, I feel like they should be able to go like, I mean, Nintendo has done this before with Fire Emblem. Go right into your save file, see what items you have, how many items you had the last time you played, and that's exactly what you still have in your inventory. I mean, they could do that if they wanted to. Personally, I don't feel they need to do that because when we're talking about like every little trinket, nah, they don't got to do that because Link would have gotten more or spent, some and things like that because time has passed. So it shouldn't be a direct, wallet basically like in the, previous game. But when it comes to your gear, yeah, I feel like you should have the same gear. You know what I'm saying, that you had before. 100%. I just want my green damn tunic right out the gate. I want to start the game, put on my tunic. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, and all of my amiibos should work. Just saying, that's not part of the list, but I just had to throw it in there. So there you have it. Those are 10 things that I feel will make the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild better than the original. Let me know what you think. If I missed something that you feel would have definitely made it better. It's like, dude, Red, how did you overlook that? Listen, there's going to be more than one list, just saying. But still, let me know what that thing that you feel is like, how did you not mention this? Put that in the comment section. And maybe that'll make it onto my list in the future. And maybe I'll even give you a shout out. Like, hey, you know who had a great idea? This guy. Awesome. Or girl, Anyway, that's my list. So until the next one, thanks for watching. Stay active. Peace.